Hi, my name is Katie and welcome back to my booktube channel. Today I'm going to be filming a reaction video where I react to the Longlist for the International Dublin Literary Award. This is hosted and run by Dublin City Libraries and funded by Dublin City Council, and it's a literary award that basically takes nominations from libraries across the world and forms a long list, and from that long list then a short list is created by judges. I really liked the award. I followed it last year from start to finish, reading as many of the long list as I could. Last year there was like 154 books, and I read about a third, I think, or maybe more of the long list. And then I read all of the short list and reacted to the shortlist and kind of followed that journey all the way through. So I wanted to kind of do the same, but kind of make it more on BookTube rather than Instagram, which is where a lot of it was last year. So yeah, this is the start of that, I guess. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to screen record my iPad as I look through the long list and just basically show you my reaction. So if you've never seen a reaction video before, that's how they work, and that's how this one's going to go. So let me go on the Dublin Literary Award website, and I'm anticipating to see it right away because that's how it has been throughout the whole kind of process last year. Okay, the 2021 long list. Oh, there's only 49 books. Wow, that's incredible. It was so much longer last year. I wonder what's changed, or if they have somehow whittled it down early. So what I will say is I'm not anticipating to have read a lot of these this year because this will be books that were published in 2019, and I'm not sure how many new releases I read that year, specifically because we moved that year. That was the year we moved to Iceland, and so much in our life kind of upheaved, and I think that I focused quite a lot on backlist titles, so unless I have read them in the year past, in 2020, which is possible because then they kind of, in the booktube and bookstagram community, become considered a little bit more backlists, amazingly, if they're not read as immediately when they come out. So I would imagine that I've not read as much of these as I could have, maybe, but we'll see. So the first three, I haven't read any of them. I have heard some interesting things about Colin McCann, so I don't think I'll be reading that one. I haven't read any of those ones. Silka's Journey again is another one that's a bit controversial. I've heard some quite controversial things about that one. Clap When You Land I haven't read. I've read another of Elizabeth Acevedo's works, read Poet X, and I thought it was quite good, but it didn't lead up to the expectations I had because everyone was hyping it, I think, and it was one of those that kind of fell to the hype. I haven't read Girl, Woman and Other, but I feel like I should have by now, and the reason I haven't is I've tried it on ebook and audio and neither format worked for me, and I think that's because most of the kind of beauty that people talk about with this book is in the way it's written, and so I would like to revisit in a physical format so I can fully appreciate that, and I just haven't quite got around to it, but I would like to this year, so maybe this is the perfect push to do so. Only as I've gone through this edited video that I have noticed a very small detail about the title Dark Mother Earth, and that's that it's been translated by somebody called Ellen Elias Bursak, I think that's how you say their name, and I read a collection of essays that they translated, and I thought it was absolutely phenomenal, and one of my favourite things about it was the translation, and just how wonderfully crafted it was. I just thought it was absolutely beautiful, so I would definitely be picking up that and anything else that translator works on. So yeah, I just wanted to input that there just in case you need a little bit of hype or information about that title. So back to the original. Hurricane season, I've heard that is like really, really intense, like really graphic, really violent. Am I thinking of the right one? Somebody told me that one was really, really violent, and so I've put it off. Gun Island is one that I would quite like to read, but I don't know a lot about it. I've just sort of seen it and thought, that sounds quite good. I don't know if anyone else is like that, where you just know of a book and you think that was something that I would like to read, but you don't actually know all the details yet. That's kind of how I feel about that one. Inland I've been drawn to several times, the same with Lost Children Archive. I really want to read both of those. So maybe this is a little push that I need, and maybe I should pick up some of these titles that already drew me in. I would really like to go through it and read, like I'm sort of going through this quite quickly, but I would really like to go into each one. and just read what ones I don't recognise are about. I've never read anything by Joyce Carol Oates before, but I have heard quite a lot of praise and appraisal for her, especially in the booktube community, more so. On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, I'd love to read. I read Ocean Vuong's poetry collection, and I really, really like that. So that's definitely one that's already on my radar, and I would really like to read. Reproduction, I think that was published by Dialogue Books in the UK, if I'm thinking of the same one, and again, that sounds really appealing. Shadowplay, I've heard of, but I don't know enough about it. I think it's historical fiction, which I do generally quite like. So that's something that I might pick up at some point. Oh, The Cat in the City's on here. Okay, that's really good. Yeah, I've wanted to read that for a while. I didn't realise fully it was short stories. I actually thought it was a full novel, but apparently it's like interconnected short stories all about the cat and the city of Tokyo. And I really want to read that for a while, and I follow the author on Twitter, and they seem really nice. So yeah, that's really exciting that they're on there. That's really exciting for them. I have tried to read The Confessions of Franny Langton, and I have DNF'd it twice now. I find it a little bit too slow paced for me personally, but maybe I should revisit it. I've tried it on physical copy twice. I've tried it on audiobook, and there just isn't enough plot to keep me going, and it's kind of one of these books where there's a secret constantly alluded to, and that I'm a bit tired of that, to be honest, in literature, where there's a secret and the whole thing revolves around this secret, but no one's talking about the secret kind of thing. So yeah, I don't know, I've kind of come to the conclusion it wasn't for me, which is a shame because it's got a lot of themes and lots of things that I would usually like, and the kind of premise reminded me a little bit of like an LGBT burial rights sort of thing. So that appealed to me, but yeah, I also think that I've guessed the twist. So if there is a grand reveal twist that's worth carrying on through, that you wouldn't usually guess, then do let me know, because maybe I will return to it. The Eighth Life is one I really, really want to read, and I want to buy my own copy of it. Like, my library has a copy, but it's just such a big book that I want to take my time and really like enjoy the experience of the book, because I do anticipate that to be a 5-star read for me. So it's exciting to see that on there. The Glass Hotel I've heard really good things about, but I haven't read myself. And that cover for The Innocents, I'm sure I've seen that somewhere, but I don't recognise anything about the book, apart from the cover imagery. But that cover is absolutely stunning. The Nickel Boys I would really like to read. I think I picked that up in the library. Yeah, I did. I picked it up in the library the other week. And just to look at it and see what it was about, and it sounded really, really graphic, and that's when I put it down, just because I'm just not in the right headspace for really graphic content at the moment. But it's good that he's on there. I'm looking forward to reading that at some point. I don't recognise any of these three ones that are named: The Pelican, The Pine Islands. The Pine Islands looks like it could be quite fun. Yeah, Blackly Funny. That sounds quite good. And it's blurred by the Japan Times, so I wonder if it's set in Japan. I need to look into that more. The subtweet, yes, Vivek Shraya's on here. That's brilliant. I really like Vivek Shraya's work, and she has such range in the work that she produces. So that is super exciting to see her on this long list. That's brilliant. And subtweet I've not actually read, so that's even better. I will definitely be picking it up pronto now, seeing that on there. The Silent Patient I have heard like really kind of mixed things about, and some people are saying that it's really kind of dodgy the way that it's gone about. And so I've always kind of felt a bit cautious about reading that one, because sometimes the topics that it's exploring are stuff that I find really difficult. So yeah, I would be a bit cautious about that one. The Trumpet Shall Sound, that cover looks really old school. Like, The Vanishing Half is one that's on my TBR for this month, so hopefully I will just get that read this month, and then I can kind of tick that off, and that will be very exciting. I actually think I'll rate that 4 or 5 stars. I'm really looking forward to reading it. And the Yield is another one that I really like to read, but I really struggle to get hold of anything by Tara June Winch, and I have like requested my library buy a copy of Tara June Winch's writing before, but I haven't been successful in getting that approval requested. So that request approved. Yeah. So yeah, I would really like to read that at some point, and it might be just when I'm next buying books. I haven't heard of any of these. Things That Fall from the Sky. That title sounds familiar, but I can't put any kind of name to it. And I have seen the cover for We Cast a Shadow, but haven't heard anyone really talking about it. When all is said, I read another Anne Griffin for last year's Longlist, and I thought it was like fine, but I DNF'd it in the end because I just wasn't interested in picking it up. So maybe that one will be more interesting and more engaging. I'm not sure. And I haven't heard of While the Music Played. And do you know what I love about this long list is like there's so many titles that I haven't heard of, and that is what draws me to it time and time again, because I discover great literature that librarians are shouting about. And for me, librarians are the expert on all of these things. Like, I have so much respect for the librarians in our online community and in our wider world. Maybe sounds a bit dramatic, but communities, you know, because they really have an absolutely brilliant job to do in terms of curating selections for people and pushing the best literature. And you know, they read so widely, and they're such a brilliant I don't want to say resource because that sounds quite clinical, but that's kind of what I mean, is that, you know, you can tap into that knowledge, and they have so much expertise in the book community and in the bookish world. So I really, really respect that about librarians, and I love that continually they come and push translated literature into this long list in a way that I don't think translated literature is appreciated as much in other literary prizes across, you know, UK and US. And I feel like in this International Dublin Literary Award, it's one that really, really celebrates international literature in a way that's just so important to me. Like, yeah, I love it. So I will continually be supporting this literary award, and hopefully I can get my hands on a few of the titles. I would like to go through and like draw out a few that really appeal to me and then maybe buy them. I'm not sure when the shortlist will be announced. Let's have a look. Okay, so it doesn't actually tell you when the shortlist will be announced, which leads me to believe that there might not be a shortlist. It might go straight to winner, because it says this anticipation will be rewarded when I announce the 26th winner on Thursday, the 20th of May 2021. So I wonder if they're just going to go straight to winner this year. That would be interesting. If that is the case, I would like to get to these sooner, but I just feel like my kind of start of the year at the moment is a bit hectic in terms of my personal life, and so I'm not sure if I can actually commit to the challenge, which is a bit frustrating for me personally, but it might be possible in the intervening months to pick up the few that I have access to already, and maybe even treat myself to a few of the novels in translation, because that is, as I said, one of the main draws for me about this award, is the amount of literature in translation that it promotes and it appreciates and celebrates. So I might go through the novels in translation and treat myself to a couple. One thing I would like to do, if it's possible this year, is go through and look at what libraries nominated what, because my local library, Reykjavik City Libraries, which is the whole of the city of Reykjavik, usually does nominate books, and usually they nominate, or last year at least, they nominated only Icelandic titles. And so I'm wondering, there's no Icelandic titles on the long list that I can see, so I'm wondering what happened there. Perhaps they didn't take part. No, they didn't take part this year. Oh, that's sad. That's sad. And again, I just feel like Scotland, there needs to be some libraries in Scotland that take part. There never is. It's so sad. I just feel like you're missing out on an opportunity to really promote, like, because getting your local literature on this long list is just such a good thing to celebrate, and it surely can't take that long to submit a wee form to say I nominate these guys. I don't know, maybe it's not that straightforward. I could be wrong, but it seems to me like less libraries have participated this year, which is a bit sad, and it could be something to do with COVID. It could be to do with the submission requirements and not being able to take part in them. I'm not sure. That would be obviously really sad, but not something that can be helped if that is the reason. But yeah, I'm really excited by some of these titles. I don't think I've read any of them, which is a bit of a difference from the year before, where I'd read about 20 before we started out. No, I've read none of them. That's quite exciting, because I've got a whole 49 books that I could be reading and could be picking from in the next wee while. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes and seeing how we get on with it, and if I manage to read some, maybe I'll check in with you again and speak to you before the winner is announced, hopefully. And if not, then I will definitely be picking up the winner for sure, and I will be picking up some of the translated titles in my own time, even if I don't get to them before the winner's announced in May. Just as I say, life's a wee bit hectic at the moment. So I hope you've enjoyed this little reaction video, and do let me know if you've read any of the long listed titles, where you would star or what you've loved from the long list. And yeah, I'll look forward to speaking to you in the comments. And thank you very much for watching. Feel free to give this video a like if you liked it, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you again next time.